in Texas, and I was working with a extension of Texas A&M University. So for the past year, that's what I have been doing. And my background, particularly, like if I start with my educational background, so that's in architecture. I completed my bachelor's from NIT Bhopal in 2016. I then joined masters at CEPT University for urban and regional planning. And I have always been interested in like environmental planning, environmental economics, climate change adaptation, and all that sort of studies. So they did have a specialization in environmental studies in CEPT University back when I joined, but they decided that they won't be continuing that. So when I got to know about it, I tried to look at other options and like, where I could continue my passion and where I could learn about what I wanted to learn about. And I got to know about Texas A&M University and the research that they were doing here. So I applied, and fortunately, I did get in. So I came here in 2017.
What was the university you said before? Was that?
CEPT University. So that's in Ahmedabad.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's in Ahmedabad, and I completed 1 year of masters there, so 49 credit hours, and then I came here. I started my masters here, and fortunately, I was able to get a lot of different opportunities with professors for ongoing research projects, which also kind of like made me aware of what I wanted to pursue more.
What department it is in?
It is under the Department of Landscape Architecture and Urban Planning.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I worked with the Hazard Reduction and Recovery Center in my first year as a student worker. So we worked on research on Hurricane Harvey. And then the following year, I worked with the School of Public Health, and we worked on water and air quality projects. So both of those are something that I was interested in. Unfortunately, like, a lot of times students don't get that opportunity in master's programs, that they can do things that they planned to do. And with me, it happened. So I was very happy about that. Initially, I planned to get some professional experience after my master's before joining a PhD program.
Did you came to join a PhD program, or this happened
No,
after
I
you?
came for my master's program, but I did have a plan to join PhD down the line.
Okay.
But it wasn't planned for 2020. To be very honest, like
Yeah,
it
that's
wasn't
fine.
planned for right now. Like I intended to have some industry experience, get some understanding of how the professional, discipline works before getting into academics. And I think it's important to understand how the industry works, so that you can do better research, you can
So let
train
me
better
ask you,
people.
did you work after you graduate in May 2019?
Yes. So currently I was working.
And so when you say I was working, so you are not working right now?
No. So my EAD ended on July 9th.
Your OPT?
My OPT, yes. So my F1 OPT ended on July 9th. And right now I'm on my grace period. So
Okay.
the 60-day grace period that we have. So transitioning.
Okay. So it's you don't get 3-year thing?
No, it was a non-STEM program.
Okay. So non-STEM programs, they get only for 1 year.
They get only for 1 year. So I don't have the extension.
Got it.
So
Okay.
based on all of that. So like,
so let me ask you, what's your plan right now? What you're thinking? And so let's come back to your questions now. So
Sure.
What's going on in your mind now? Tell me that.
So I do have an opportunity to start PhD with the Texas A&M's Urban Planning Department.
Same department.
Same department that I was in.
Okay.
In like, honestly, in my opinion, I feel like since I know the professors, I know the research, I'm very comfortable with my advisor. So all that kind of makes me feel very comfortable starting a PhD, because this is important to understand what's the opportunity, what are the professors. It's good to know that.
But let me ask you this question. Are you ready to do a PhD, or you are still having questions in your mind? Because it's a long-term commitment. Right?
No, I'm actually comfortable starting a PhD.
Okay.
I'm just a little bit more worried about what happens after the PhD. I understand that it's a long-term thing, and plans and things change in 4-5 years. whatever the condition is there today might not be the condition 5 years
No,
later.
no, I'm not talking about, forget about COVID. We are not talking about that. I'm just
Okay,
thinking as a, whenever I talk to a student, I always talk about their interest first.
right.
I never talk about COVID, job. That's not my concern
Okay,
right now.
yeah.
We will talk about it, but my concern on the first question is, are you doing out of desperation or because you have nothing to do, or are you doing because you want to do it? That's my first question.
Okay. No, I think I am very comfortable joining PhD right
Okay,
now.
good.
And especially because the projects that are going on are very relevant to what I want to study.
Okay.
And I've talked with my advisor at length about like what her projects are going to be, what she's pursuing, and how that aligns with what I want to do. So
So,
all that lines
so
up nicely.
right, right. So you are okay. So let me ask you, is there any question from in your mind? Because I see a couple of questions which talks about should I join a PhD, whether it's funded or not? And then your question is one
Yes.
thing is whether should I join a STEM
Yes. So
PhD, right?
this is
That's the
all,
question.
yeah, this is
But
all
why you are thinking like a STEM PhD versus, so STEM means you're probably gonna go into a civil engineering department, I believe, right?
No, there are programs in urban planning which also are STEM designated programs in other universities. So for Texas A&M, it's not a STEM program. So I'll
Correct.
give you a brief account of how I came to get this PhD offer. So
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to continue with Texas A&M as a consultant,
Mm-hmm.
and they were ready to sponsor. But then COVID happened, so hiring freeze happened. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why they couldn't apply for the H1B.
Mm-hmm.
And my manager, she suggested that I should look into the PhD option now rather than later because this is a good time to be in school. And because I wanted to do PhD anyway,
Mm-hmm.
um, it it could be of interest to look at it right now.
Okay.
And so we explored the
So,
options.
so why you are thinking about, let's come back to the point. Why you are thinking STEM PhD versus this one? What's the reason?
So, for the past year, as a master's graduate, I
Mm-hmm.
have faced a lot of worries and difficulty because of the non-STEM designation of the program.
Like
Because
what?
not all urban planning programs are non-STEM. Like there is a mix.
Like what are the
So,
worries?
what?
What are the worries you said, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What are those worries?
So initially, like for between graduating and starting with Texas A&M, I was looking for jobs and everything. So it was a difficult period because they were always asking this question that would you have a STEM extension?
Mm.
If not, then it's not preferable. Like I've heard these things a lot of times, even when like
If
at the final interview, that
right.
since other applicants have that possibility of like extending their work if they don't get a work visa in the
So
first round.
let me ask you, is that your only worry or is there is something else also?
No, that's my only worry. I don't want to kind of go
Yeah.
through
Because the
this
reason
period again.
right, right. Because the reason I'm telling you this thing is all MBAs goes through that
Yeah,
and they get the job.
right.
So what I'm saying is, here's the thing. If you are able to get into a STEM program, a good program, better than this one, where you are more comfortable, you find that program much better, of course, go. But
Okay.
if you think this is one of the rarest program and things like that, you're not the only one. As I said, all the MBAs go through that.
Okay.
So
That's
you,
fair.
so what,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, I don't think you should think in that way. Okay, what's going to happen? Because trust me, if a company is going to like you, okay, and you get a job, they file your H1B right away. They don't wait
Right.
for 2 3 years. They don't do
Right.
that. It
Right.
doesn't happen.
Right.
And
But then it
if
also comes down to the chance, right? Like lottery system in H1B is kind of like a hit or miss thing.
yeah,
So
but
with
yeah, you're
STEM, there is a little bit more kind of like, calm because you know that you have greater chances.
yes, you're right. But again, that's the point. As I said, is what choices you have, right?
True.
Options.
True.
So I will not ask you this question if you tell me that I already have an option in my hand, because
Hmm.
as I'm reading through your question, other options is leave this and go back home. So what are the chances that you are coming back and things like that, right?
Right. Right.
So as I said, you have to weigh your options, and you are the
True.
only person who can do it. Only thing I can tell you is you are not the only one who has to go through this.
Yeah.
Every MBA, and there are tons of them,
Yeah.
right, that go through this thing and they get their H1. So I think it's a calculated risk, in my opinion.
Okay.
In my opinion,
And
it's a calculated risk.
okay. And like about the second question, that was also one of my worries that usually in my like understanding, as far as I have talked
Mhm.
to friends and colleagues, people who do start a PhD usually have a fully funded offer.
Mhm.
In that way, I feel like that's a better option when you have a fully funded offer, because you can focus on your work and you don't have to worry about, like, securing funding for the next year or year after that or things like that. So you can
So,
totally
so let
dedicate
me
yourself towards your work.
right, right. So let me tell you about that, but how that whole thing works.
Okay.
When you came for your master's, did you pay for it or you had?
I had a scholarship.
Okay. So if you had that scholarship, you probably get some idea. So what happens in like a master's, same goes for PhD also. You get RA or a TA, right?
Yeah, I mean, usually, so my scholarship was a departmental funding.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
or you get a fellowship,
yes,
which
it was
which
more
is
like a fellowship,
right,
right?
right. So I am talking about usually in PhDs, you get RAT or a fellowship, right?
Right.
So TA, you get every year extension.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, it once you are a TA, you get that all the time,
Okay.
right? For an RA, that totally depends on the money the advisor has,
Okay.
right? So the advisors sometimes have a project which is funded for 3 years. Sometimes they have a startup money that is good for 2 years. Sometimes they have, and so what they do is they say, okay, what I can do is for me to, you know, pay this student for rest 4 years. I can pay half RA and half TA. So they manage the money, and that's how it goes most of the time. Very seldom it happens when you get a professor who says, I have a project that is running, or a guy who is extremely rich has money for, you know, $1 million grant or something, and he's able to fund the students. But in my opinion, usually PhDs, if you're a PhD student in the department, and if your department has paid you as a master student, I think you should be okay on that. You will get an extension, because my opinion is, I don't know what type of funding you are getting now, but usually they put you on TA or RA rotation, something like that. Let's say what happens is the professor who is in your department doesn't
Mhm.
have a RA, then he or she may have a half TA or full
True.
TA or something, so they arrange it. So I don't think that is a risk, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
don't think that is a risk.
That's
Yeah,
what I was looking
yeah,
for.
yeah, but I don't think that is a risk. But you can always have this talk upfront with your advisor,
Okay.
that what, or you can get some data from your department where you say, okay, let me see how many TAs are there as a PhDs that move
Okay.
around between R and TA, and you can figure that out.
Okay.
And if any department is taking you as a PhD student, usually they pay you. They don't. I I have not heard about that somehow a PhD student in the middle of something is saying is that asking money from his or her advisor. It's very rare.
Mhm.
And I don't think, I don't know, like, where professors get the money for an RA or something. Like, for example, right now, who the professor is paying you? Is he paying you from the research grant or something?
No, so right now, this year, the first year of funding that is given to me is as a graduate assistant non-teaching.
Okay.
So probably I'll be working with the department on some of the research
Yeah.
projects,
Right, right.
but they have not disclosed under who I will be working.
So does your department has undergrads or no?
Yes, they do.
So yeah, so they probably need TA then. So I'm pretty
Okay.
sure that they can figure it out. You can, to be honest with you, you can have this talk with the head of the department or the graduate director admissions,
Okay. Yeah.
whoever is in their department, and say,
Mhm.
hey, I have this 1 year, but can you tell me, like, all the PhDs who are here, or talk to PhD student, and you can see them. They rotate usually. And if they have not assigned you an advisor, once they assign it, probably then it becomes their responsibility. to figure
Okay.
that out. So I think that should not come to your
All right.
in that discussion. As far as, see, there, as I said, two things, right? The STEM thing, I already told you the answer. If you have
Yeah.
another option right now in your hand, then I can tell you, okay,
No,
so
right now, because the
right,
H1B thing like was supposed to happen and H1 got picked, but
yeah,
because of COVID and everything, like that's
yeah,
a different story and it didn't happen. So
yeah,
I've kept it aside.
right,
But because of that, I didn't apply because that was not the plan initially. So I didn't
right,
apply initially to all the programs and everything.
right, right.
But yeah, so
But
A&M right now is like the only option that I have. And I honestly, I don't want to rush into it just because this is the only option. Like you
so
might,
let me tell you the long term problem that can happen.
hmm,
Let me put it answer that question. And I don't know what's your plans are. Is your plans are, I want to stay in US or I want to go back home. So if you want to go back
uh,
home after a couple of years or so working here, again, think it very carefully, because that's because every student that you speak, any master student that I speak, even when I was a master student, if you would have asked me that question, I would say, no, no, I'm going to go back. And here I am 15
well,
years.
when I was a master's student, when I came here in the first year, when people used to ask me, I had the same idea, and I totally understand what you're
Yeah,
saying.
right.
But I feel like about research, there are more opportunities either here or in European countries. So, especially in my
Again,
field.
again,
Um,
things are changing quite a lot, to be honest.
mhm,
And I'm pretty sure, again, it is totally your choice and the scenario. Let me tell
yeah,
you what can happen. Here is the thing. So, what usually happens is, if you decide to stay here for a long time, the one problem that comes up is the immigration.
true.
That's the biggest problem that
Yes,
everybody has to go through it.
wonderful.
And more so, or now, it has become one of the biggest problem. Forget about whatever you know, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So as a PhD student, you get first in line, and your
Okay,
chances of getting immigration, green card, and all that are much better.
okay.
I'm not sure if you are not under STEM, whether that counts you or not.
I did some research about it, and I think for the green card situation, it doesn't matter if you're from a STEM or
No,
non-STEM
no,
course.
as I said, I'm not sure. So check that out.
Yeah, I did check that out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I did talk to
So,
like lawyers and
right,
everybody and get to understand like what the regulations are.
right.
So it doesn't matter if you're non-STEM or STEM. What matters is your contribution in the academic field. So
No, no.
that's
So
that is
as I
the
said,
most
I'm
important.
not the lawyer, so I can't
Yeah.
guide you on that, because
No, yeah,
my
definitely.
background was more engineering, so
True.
I don't know that scenario, right?
Yeah.
I never had to deal with that question.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that this, and the reason I say so is because um, MBAs, let me put it
Hmm.
this way, especially, they suffer this biggest problem.
Okay. Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, because it doesn't count as a STEM. It's science, teaching, engineering, and math, not management.
Yes.
So it doesn't count.
Okay.
So they face this STEM problem.
Okay.
So again, as you said, right, STEM OPT becomes a problem for them. And because you're not a STEM graduate, I heard that they face issue on the green card also, but I don't know, to be honest. I'm not the lawyer. If somebody lawyer has told you that, I will more believe on that
Okay.
person.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
Okay.
I'll double check with the lawyers and ask them like
Yeah.
these questions. But yeah, so far that's the information that I have.
Yeah, so I think you should be fine then.
Okay.
But as I said, if you're deciding to stay in this country and work here and all that, going for a PhD is only option for now or for future for anybody to stay in this country, because they are first in line.
Okay.
And it becomes much more relevant for people who are coming from India, to be honest, not
Okay.
from any other country, especially from India, China, Mexico, and things like that,
Okay.
because of number of population of those people representing this country.
Right.
So yeah, so as I said again, because many students, they say, they will finish PhD and then they will go back, find a job back home and all that. For them, they don't have to then worry about that, right? So they should do what they like rather than what would help them to get immigration. So that's the reason I ask you this question, and one has to consider that too. That's what I said to you is, if a STEM becomes a problem, then I would suggest you, and you decide to stay here, then I will suggest you to find a position in a
A
university where
STEM.
this count as a STEM.
Okay. So
But
in
if it's
that
not, that's
case,
fine. Yeah.
okay, in that case, let's say if that is the case, that it turns out to be true, and like that's a concern, being from a non-STEM major. So, like my third and fourth question is because I anticipated something like that. So I was wondering if a better option is to stay here in this program and then look at switching or transferring to another university which has
Yeah.
STEM,
Yeah.
or the better option is to go back to India and reapply. I mean, this would sound
No, no,
maybe
no.
logical, or maybe
No, no, it's very logical. I think, to be honest with you, I would say staying here and working, and then probably looking at some other school would be a better option. The reason is very simple. Number one, whatever coursework you're gonna do it is gonna get transferred.
true.
So any professor that's gonna hire you, you become a prize property, because he or she doesn't have to pay for your those
Tuition.
tuitions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then you will be able to, unless until you say, let me relax and go back, and things like that, that's a separate story.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are like, no, no, I need to finish it, that's what I want to do, then I would say stay complete it 1 year. And if you find this as a problem, then definitely try to figure it out a university and start talking to someone,
Yeah.
sometimes before November, because fall admissions are going to due by, you have to apply by January or February, I believe.
Yes.
Right. So that's the best thing to do. And at the time, I think you will be not committed to a advisor also. So it's, I think you won't feel bad about it, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But as I said, as far as if you're gonna go back and reapply and apply, then there are risk.
Much higher, right?
I don't know risk actually, but I won't consider that as a risk. But only thing I
Okay.
will consider is you may be able to lose that 1 year, and what if because right now you don't have to worry about paying your education or things like that, right? But
True.
then you have to worry about, okay, what if I'm not gonna get admissions? That's number one. Number two, what if I don't get scholarship? Because
Yeah.
those things are, if you are here, then it's very easy to transition.
True.
But if you are back there, then it becomes a problem, as you
True.
know that. Yeah. So it becomes a nuisance for a advisor in the school also. From here you can call someone and do your
Yeah.
thing. So yeah.
Okay.
But
And
yeah, go ahead.
the last thing, so it's always difficult, as I would say, as an early professional for me, to
Mhm.
take decisions which are going to have such long lasting impacts.
Like,
So in like anything, like continuing for the PhD, or like
okay,
which option of the PhD is going to, you've looked at my questions. They're
right,
pretty basic questions. They're questions that probably everybody would have. So I just wanted to understand, when you're taking decisions which are going to have lasting impacts on your career or on your life, so usually what are the parameters that you generally consider? Like, or what are the things that you would look at? Like, I usually try to look at return on investment.
mm-hmm.
How much time, effort, and money am I paying? And what am I getting out of it? So based on that, and then if it aligns with the larger picture that I had in mind. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, like in this case, um, there are some negative points in terms of money, because I don't know the funding scenario for the next few years. Like, I know for the first year, and the like I'm pretty confident that there would be funding, but it's still it's still a question mark. And on the
but
other hand,
but same goes with COVID, right? Nobody knows.
yeah, this year has thrown a
See,
lot of curveballs.
to everyone, right?
Yeah, to
So
everyone.
yeah. So here's the thing. I don't think anybody can answer that question. What
Hmm.
will happen in future?
True.
Because if you ask me, and I as I said, one of my videos, I talked about this Steve Jobs commencement ceremony, where he said you can always connect the dots by looking backwards. So now I can see what
Yeah.
you are saying and what would I have done, the person who was looking for those questions, and what
Yeah.
did I do, right?
Yeah.
But you can't,
Yeah. No,
right?
that's what I'm saying. Like, it always
Right,
happens. When I look back, I know why I made those
right,
decisions and how that connected.
right.
But looking forward, taking a decision
You can't
is
do that.
becoming a little difficult
No,
because of
you
everything
can't.
external.
No, because you can't predict the future, right?
Yeah.
We wish we can predict. So here's my advice on that front. You take a decision whether you want to do a PhD or not, whether you want to get married or not, whether you want to do go for hiking or not, whatever, based on, are you enjoying it? Do you want to do that?
True.
As of
Very true.
now, as of now, end of
Okay.
the story.
Okay.
Because here's the thing, interest is more important than any other thing, whether are you going to enjoy that or not.
Hmm.
So many students talk to me, can I find a job or not after that? See, that's not up to me to answer. And you are, if you're doing your masters because you can find a job or because you want to stay in this country, that's a wrong notion. My advice has been, based on my experience, was do what you enjoy, rest everything will take care of you. Okay, so that's first. Yes, you can do your calculated risk, right? You don't want to fall in the ditch, so you look at when you walk and all that. That's the only thing you can do.
Hmm.
But if you're gonna say, I want to go to US because I want to stay in US and things like that, because your motivation is not to finish your education, your motivation is something else. So what will happen is you won't do this.